at 57 in need of a rebirth. We're moving on to the economy, bread and butter issues. This is not philosophy now. We're going down to the basics. This concerns virtually every Nigerian, and this is what every other thing we'll be discussing all boils down to. That which affects everyone on a day-to-day basis, prices, rates, and so on. And so I'm sure quite a lot of people will be interested in this aspect of our discussion. Definitely. Because this is the one that really concerns them. Our guests from Abuja and here in Lagos. Yes, we have with us here in the studio the MD CEO of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewani. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And in Abuja, we have an economist, Mr. Tokpe Fashua. Thanks a lot for joining us as well.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay, now let me begin with you, Mr. Rewani. Every time we see economists on a day like this, we're reflecting on dividends of nationhood, let's put it that way. When I was talking to you earlier about it, you said, indeed, in need of a rebirth, but you'd rather say born again at 57. Explain to us.
Actually, the life expectancy of a Nigerian is 53. And if Nigeria as a nation was a human being, it would have actually either died or about to die, right, based on the data that is there. So you have to ask yourself that, what have you accomplished in 57 years? Are the Nigerians better off today than they were 57 years ago? Have they actually made sure that the next generation are going to live a better life than the past generations? Or should we say this was a wasted effort? So that is the assessment that we have to ask ourselves. And ask yourself that 57 years ago, Indonesia, Nigeria, Ghana, and all of these other countries were at a particular level. And if you look at life expectancy, which is a very important yardstick, life expectancy at independence was 37 years for Nigeria, and today it's 53.
How do you explain that?
Well, basically, 57 years ago, there was hardly any medical facilities. People were still, it's post-colonial era and different tuberculosis and so many other things. And in between, you had the HIV scourge and all. But essentially, if you look at Indonesia had about 40 years life expectancy in 1960, but today the life expectancy is about 90 years old, about 87, 90 years old. So they've more than doubled their life expectancy. And there's a correlation between economic growth, quality of life, and life expectancy. But one of the most important variables that worries me is that at independence we were 34 million. And today it is said that we are 180 million. I find that extremely difficult to believe.
I was going to ask you that, what biometrics do we use to plan for ourselves?
Well, the problem is that if you went from 34 to 180 and just did a simple average, it would mean that we're growing at about 7.6% a year, while our actual growth rate is population growth rate is about 3%. So there's something wrong with that. With the data. Yes. With the data. And as long as you don't have correct population numbers, then all your evaluation parameters are wrong.
But I'm going to bring this in. I hope you don't lose your train of thought with your next point. I also came across this. It says from Population Reference Bureau, they predicted that by 2050, Nigeria's population will be about 397 million.
Yes.
And that's we're going to be fourth from after China, India, and US. That's some 33 years away.
Yeah, I mean, but the point is that if the base is wrong, every other projections are wrong. Yeah. So we have to ask ourselves some fundamental questions. And luckily, the federal government of Nigeria under Buhari has said that they're going to synchronize the biometric data, that is your BVN, your PVC, your national identity card, your passport will be centralized. When we do that, then we would have numbers that work. Because, for example, in Lagos State, the estimates are anywhere between 15, 20, and in that highly contentious election, last in 2015, total number of voters were about 1.6 million. That is total between Agbaje and Governor Ambode. So where all the other people?
Where are all the other 19 million?
And if even if you say 50% of them were below 18 below the age, they still have to account for about 9 million people. In Anambra State, total number of votes between Obiano and the other candidate were like 700,000 in a state where population is supposed to be about 5 or 6 million. What happened to the others?
But is that not the general pattern the world over? Most people
no. Voter apathy. This was a highly contentious election. Everybody came out. Everybody was interested. So you can, even if you had voter apathy of 30%, after discounting for that, there's still
a lot of people not accounted.
And if you look at the West African profile, you see that Ghana is now 20 million, right? Benin Republic, Togo, Cameroon. Then all of a sudden in the middle there's this 180 million. So I like to challenge. I don't know what the right number is, but I have a gut feeling that this number is not correct. So when you start making drawing conclusions from that, it means that there's a problem that we need to solve. Let's park that. But having said that, let's look at other variables that are important.
I was going to ask you about our GDP trajectory.
Yes, your income per capita at independence, Nigeria was about $1,000, and now it's 1,992. That's about 2,000. So it's gone up by 100%. Ivory Coast was $1,200 at that time, and has gone up to 3,600, 201%. But Mauritius was $20,000, no, $2,000, and has gone up by a factor of 10 to $21,000. Mauritius doesn't have oil. Ivory Coast does not have oil, right? So you want to ask yourself, why this suboptimality that has gone all the way, right? So you have to break down Nigeria's performance over the period into different era. Era number 1, post-independence democracy. Era number 2, civil war and oil and squander mania. Era number 3, debt, where we started borrowing. Then era number 4 is looking inwards, right? Before we now got to era number 5, which is that of competitiveness, growth, and trying to open up our markets. But we're not there yet. There's still a lot of people locked in the past mentally that do not know that you need to be competitive and you need to work your way to success. The biggest threat, though, is that oil is being threatened with obsolescence because the electric car and also many things. So you might look back in history after a while and say, this was a period in which Nigeria squandered massive opportunities. What I like to say is better late than never. But you see a lot of people, you go back to where we are and say, we have had 5 quarters of negative growth, then we come out at 0.5 and we're already celebrating. Whilst South Africa went into a recession and had come out with 2.5% growth, which is 5 times more than we did. And guess what? Ghana announced its growth rate 2 days ago. Quarter on quarter, 9%. Almost highest in the world. So what did Ghana do? Ghana has strong institutions, strong leadership, favorable policies. So when you have those 3 together and you are sincere about what you're doing, because you have to be serious, and that's one of the most important things. The country has to be serious. It's not enough just blaming people and talking about things. You have to be serious.